Hello everyone, hi! I'm so excited to finally share with you today that I have been working on a course that aims to teach you everything you need to know about the classics of French literature in a concise and enjoyable way. It's no surprise to me that France has earned more Nobel Prizes in literature than any other country, and if the French novelists, playwrights, poets, and philosophers have intrigued you as much as they did me in the past, then I think you'll really enjoy learning more about them through this course. So let me give you some details on what you'll be able to find in that online course that is available from today on. The course is called French Literature, a Reader's Journey Through the Classics. In the course, you'll find a book list with 20 books and a total of 24 corresponding videos in which I'll guide you step by step, author by author, through the history of French literature. In theory, the course is designed in a way where you should watch about one video every week, because that will give you enough time to actually read the book on the book list and to do some journaling and reflecting on the side. You can really choose your own pace though, so you can of course go through it really quickly if you don't want to read all the books, or you can take much more time. It's meant to be flexible with your schedule. But as an example, if you do intend on reading all the books and you read about one book per week, it will take you about 5 months. Additionally, you'll also get a timeline. I have mine here, that will give you a visual representation of everything we'll be learning together throughout this course. It has the book list with the recommended translations on one side, and then also a section for further reading, so that even after the course you'll know where to turn next if you want to learn more and deepen your understanding. Zooming in a little bit, in every single one of those 20 author videos, you'll learn about the life, work, and philosophy of one influential French author, like Michel de Montaigne, Molière, Albert Camus, or Marcel Proust. You'll also learn how to approach that book that I recommend you'll read for that author, so that you get the most out of your reading experience. I hope that by the end of that journey, once you finish the course, you'll have a robust and solid understanding of the history of French literature, the most important literary epochs, and what are, in my opinion, the 20 most interesting and influential writers. So if you feel like you have been reading a little bit sporadically lately, just a book here or there, and you long to immerse yourself in a bit more of a structured reading program that kind of feels like taking a university literature course, but in a cozy way, I think this would be wonderful for you. So for the rest of this video, I quickly want to talk about why I made the course, and I'll also share some example lessons of what you'll be able to find in the course at the end of the video. So hopefully after watching all of that, you'll know very well whether this is something for you or not. If you do decide on getting it, I'll have a discount code for the first 10 days that it is available. The code is thank you in all capital letters. I'll also link it in the description box below, and it will give you 35% off the original price until May 2nd. Additionally, as a thank you to my coffee supporters, I have sent each of you a private message with a one-time code that will give you 50% off the course. I really wanted to do that because I honestly just appreciate you so much. You'll never know what your generosity means to me while I'm in this phase of building up the channel and actually moving it towards something that I'll be able to make a living from, hopefully one day. So I hope that if you're getting the course, that this will make it even more affordable for you. So thank you so much. I truly consider you the building blocks that this channel is built on. So the story of this course began about a year ago. I was into my literature studies already, and I have just heard about the fact that I'll be able to do a semester abroad in Paris. I was so excited, and naturally I wanted to prepare myself well. I thought, well, I'm going to study literature in Paris. I should definitely first get my French going again, and secondly, learn a little bit about French literature. It didn't take me long to realize that I actually don't know that much about French literature and the French classics. Like, yes, I've read some Flaubert, and I could have probably told you who Molière was, and I kind of knew that Montaigne was important, but I don't know, when I sat myself down and took an honest look to assess my level of knowledge, I had to admit that it was very basic. I was determined to change that though. I really wanted to fill in the gaps in my knowledge, and I realized that what I needed most was some guidance. Like, I needed someone to explain to me the structure and which books it even merits to know about. Like, yes, I could go out and read some more books by French authors, but that still doesn't give me the overall picture that I was looking for. So I started looking around for courses, and I didn't really find anything that appealed to me. There are some universities that offer courses online, but I don't know, they were either too specific or too expensive, or they were only like once a year and you had to participate via Zoom and it didn't fit with my schedule, or they weren't in English. Like, there was always some kind of problem. Nothing really satisfied that longing that I had to just understand the literature and the classics of that country that I love so much a bit better. So I thought, if it doesn't exist, I should probably create it. And that's the day when I started scripting for this course. I knew back then that if I only stayed with it long enough and spent all the time that I somehow had building this structure, a really cool product for myself and hopefully other people could emerge from that. And that's basically what I've been doing for the past year. More intensely in the past months. I emailed my professors, I went to a lot of lectures, did research, talked to people, and I read a lot of books. And I've put everything that I learned and everything that I find interesting and all the love I have for French literature into that course, and that is what is finally ready to share with you today. I really hope that it reaches like-minded people. I really hope that it reaches some lovers of literature out there that feel like their life has been changed in a meaningful way through literature. Oh, and I almost forgot, there's one video in the course where I collaborated with Emmelie from the YouTube channel Prose and Petticoats, and a couple of other ones with Bren from Bren Booth Jones. That was a really cool project to kind of get some different voices into that course as well. So yeah, I don't know what else there will be to say. You can check out the course page, it has a little bit of additional information still. You can also send me an email if you have any questions, if you're not sure whether the course is for you. My inbox is always open. And yeah, I'll put in some example lessons now so you can watch through those. And thank you so much for being here. I will see you again next time. Bye-bye. Staying in the 19th century, we'll talk about an author who said the following thing about writing. Quote, "From the moment I start a novel, life's just one endless torture." This quote is by none other than Émile Zola. Zola's journalistic background and political engagement, coupled with his naturalistic writing style, pack a real punch both in his fiction and in his non-fiction work. In the video about him, we'll talk about the difference between realism and naturalism, one of his most famous books, Thérèse Raquin, and the newspaper article that he published that makes him stand out not only as a fabulous writer, but also as a tireless defender of truth. Rounding us out in the 19th century, we'll take a closer look at another poet, one that has an almost mythic status amongst French writers, Arthur Rimbaud. It is remarkable that he wrote for only 5 years of his life, and that in that short amount of time, he flipped poetic conventions on their head. He questioned the relationship between the poet and the poem, and wanted to invent a poetic style that is, quote, one day accessible to all the senses. Now moving into the 20th century, we're finally coming around to my favorite author of all time, Marcel Proust. I put a lot of love into that Proust video, because there is simply no book that has ever touched me the way In Search of Lost Time did when I first read it. Proust took this realism that has been built up in the 19th century, and how I like to say it, has turned it in words. He's the biggest representative of stream of consciousness writing, a writing style that tries to track everything that is going on in someone's mind meticulously. We'll look at his idea of writing against time and depicting time, and we'll also talk about the main themes of his work, finding satisfaction through art and dealing with disillusionment. Now, Sartre says further that because our freedom is so confronting to us, and we experience this anxiety of choice, that we have this total amount of freedom to choose whatever we want, a lot of people actually choose to ignore their freedom and conform and let other people make choices for them. We're not courageous enough often to face the dread, to deal with all these opinions and the despair that comes with not knowing what to choose. And Sartre famously said that life begins on the other side of despair. So according to him, we have to get through that if we want to be free and live a good life, essentially. But in this situation where you're letting others choose, Sartre said you have what he calls bad faith. Because we're essentially lying to ourselves because we don't recognize our freedom. And it does take care of the anxiety a little bit to, basically not accept that responsibility, but we lose ourselves in the process. We don't think about our own morals and we live inauthentically, which in the end leads to an existential crisis, right? That's what you hear when people say they're having an existential crisis. And that doesn't necessarily have to do anything with age, but it is often when a lot of time has passed where you didn't actively create your life in a way that you find meaningful. Now, an important point I want to make here is that you might think that this is some kind of hyper-individualistic philosophy where it's like, there's no binding morals, so it's each person on their own then, and that's not at all the case. Actually, it's quite the opposite. Sartre says that part of the dread we feel in that moment when we become aware of our existence is that we ourselves are responsible not just for our life, but for all of humanity. Since choice, in a general sense, defines life, each person is responsible for all of humanity with every choice that is made. We are our choices is a very simple and beautiful quote by Sartre that sums this point up. So let's now take a look at how Sartre takes this understanding and translates it into literature. Because, all those things were mentioned before in poetry, they were just not connected to beauty. But Baudelaire believed that humans had a simultaneous allegiance to both God and Satan. And I think it comes through in every single one of his poems. In The Death of the Poor, a poem I would recommend, it says, for example, "It is death that consoles and allows us to live." And in the last poem of The Flowers of Evil, he says, "Heaven or hell, who cares?" And Baudelaire called that hallmark of his poetry himself the tendance essentiellement démonique de l'art moderne, translating to the essentially demonic tendency of modern art, meaning that in his poetry there is no retrieving into some idyllic hiding spot. One finds oneself in the dirt of the modern world, almost enjoying the attraction towards the evil and the discarded. And this simultaneous allegiance to God and Satan is also what makes him so modern, right? Modern literature is often concerned with being stuck in the middle. We have so many options and opinions, that it's difficult to choose where to live, what to do with one's lives, which political stance to choose. And it can be said that that's the essential problematic or question of modern men. And Charles Baudelaire talked about that, almost being the seer that Arthur Rimbaud called him so many years ago. In Sad Madrigal, on page 337, he says, "What do I care if you be wise? Be lovely and be sad, for tears are as appealing on the face as rivers on the countryside. Flowers are freshened by the storm." When talking about Voltaire, we first have to talk about the Age of Enlightenment in Europe. In 1784, Kant said that, quote, "Enlightenment is man's emergence from his self-imposed immaturity. Immaturity is the inability to use one's understanding without guidance from another. This immaturity is self-imposed when its cause lies not in lack of understanding, but in lack of resolve and courage to use it without guidance from another. Sapere aude, have courage to use your own understanding. That is the motto of enlightenment." So enlightenment, in essence, is all about freeing oneself from authority and dogma. Thinking that through to its conclusion politically, this resulted in the French Revolution, because enlightenment by definition is against a single person or the church or a monarch having power. When it comes to literature, though, this enlightenment leads to sentimentality, which is a literary branch that is known for an overflow of emotions and subjectivity. Now, that might seem contradictory at first, but in the 18th century, people actually started focusing more on their own experience. And that is what Kant employs us to do as well, right? Use your own experience and your own judgments. Empirical insights are what count, especially those that are won through the senses, and one's own observations become favored over abstract principles. So in literature, exactly that is reflected as well. Voltaire was born in 1694 and could be said to be the embodiment of French Enlightenment. Here's a quote that is often attributed to him. "I disagree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it." It turns out that he probably didn't say that, but that his biographer came up with this quote to sum up Voltaire's philosophy in one sentence. So anyways, just like Dante, Balzac also divided his comedy into 3 parts. The first part is Études des mœurs, meaning the studies of manners. The second part being the Études philosophiques, so studies of philosophy, and the third one being the études analytiques, analytical studies. The thought process behind this was that in the study of manners, he wanted to depict the societal circumstances of the time, so taking stock of reality as it is, and the social consequences, the facts and the social effects, as Balzac called it. Balzac asserted that laws are spider webs through which the big flies pass and the little ones get caught.